Hi everyone, welcome to the rebuttal of debate on all publicly funded palliative care or hospice settings be required to provide medical assistance in dying. My name is Otessa Monks and I am against this statement. My position remains the same in that the provision of MAID is a practice separate and distinct from hospice palliative care. While both help to relieve suffering, they do not share the same philosophy, intention, or approach to end of life, and its public funding should not be siloed. My rebuttal will include a review of my opponent's arguments and will include counter-arguments to defend that MAID and palliative care are distinct from one another and are two very different of many options available upon end of life. I will reinforce the significant role that our wonderful healthcare providers play in delivery of care and remind everyone that providers are humans with morals, personal values, and beliefs and have the same fundamental rights as everyone else. I will bring forward a case study involving healthcare providers in MAID that I found relevant to this debate, as well as review MAID requests and total MAID deaths in Canada, and wrap it up with some final thoughts. I would also like to take a moment to state that among all of my research, I do wholeheartedly believe that the Government of Canada and stakeholders are committed to ensuring that the laws reflect Canadians' needs, protect those vulnerable, and support autonomy and freedom of choice. No one patient is more deserving than another, and this debate is about the risk of underserviced patients and in how we, in a fair and democratic society, allocate our resources equitably. The blue font on the left of the chart is my opposition arguments, and the right are my own arguments to rebut the claims. The first is that there is a risk of suffering when patients are transferred out of one hospice and sent to another. There is no research evidence of this, and the reference was anecdotal and was made by the CEO of Dying with Dignity Canada. It is reasonable to say that patients at their end of life are frail and that it is not ideal to be moving anyone in this state. However, this is not unique to this debate, as patients are transferred from hospitals to home to die or to hospices, and it happens every day as resources and services are varied in provinces and demographic locations. And the provision of routine clinical care that includes end-of-life interventions, like implanting a biliary stent, for example, are often not possible in small communities and requires patients to be transferred. The second argument is that expanding access to MAID will not cost extra money and that in fact it would save money. If not at the expense of healthcare dollars, it is at the expense of the provider and institution's fundamental rights. It will reduce access to people wanting the palliative care approach at the end of life. It will further reduce the availability of hospices to people that do not want MAID, and this alone is a concern of palliative care physicians. That fear of suffering in an environment where there is inadequate, high-quality palliative care may actually lead to the request of MAID. You said that Canadians want the choice to access MAID. This is irrelevant and it's a moot point, as patients have the choice because it is the law as of 2016. Majority of MAID recipients, in fact 80% of them, received palliative care, and this is significantly higher than patients that did not request MAID. And 81% of MAID requests resulted in MAID death. Other percentages were lost due to dying before MAID provision or ineligibility. It was said that there is a risk of inequitable care if MAID is not legislated in hospice palliative care settings. This claim is ignorant and holds no merit. Inequitable access to palliative care and hospice settings is a long-standing issue in Canada, and it is a global concern. It is estimated that only 14% of people in need of palliative care can access it, and MAID deaths only represented 2.2% of all deaths in 2020. The sixth statement that I'd like to comment on is that the addition of MAID will not further burden the already strained healthcare system, but has been shown to result in cost savings. Simply put, this is a question of, do we have the right patient in the right bed? One patient requesting MAID in a palliative care or hospice setting is taking an opportunity away from another person who just wants palliative care. Palliative care in hospice settings are insufficient, and this will increase burden and availability of palliative care to the patient that shares the same philosophy and intention to live out their last days and allow for a natural death to occur within a supportive environment. And the last statement I'd like to comment on is that 86% of healthcare professionals supported MAID. This is factually inaccurate, and it was a misrepresentation of the data. The 86% came from a poll in 2020 of a sample of 3,500 Canadians. Of this sample, only 9% of the participants were regulated healthcare providers. This statistic does not represent healthcare providers. This is a better representation of the Canadian Medical Association and the providers of MAID. In 2020, the Canadian Medical Association surveyed all members to gain a diverse perspective that best represents their position. There were 6,054 participants, and only 14% of them were MAID providers. Again, only few providers actually specialize in palliative care. Each participant was asked to select the statement that best describes what you believe should be required of physicians who are not willing or unable to provide MAID. There was no consensus on the level of referral that should be provided by physicians who are unwilling or unable to provide MAID. But at the present time, providers are required to provide a referral to a MAID provider. And another survey question was, to what extent do you agree with the Canadian Medical Association's support of those who choose to participate in MAID or not? 74% strongly agree in having this choice. This is a more accurate representation of what the providers want, the right to decide, and to not be coerced or forced by the public funds and control of the government. This chart was pulled from the Government of Canada website, demonstrating the number of MAID practitioners in Canada and number of MAID deaths. Although the total number of MAID practitioners providing MAID has increased, the number of MAID cases increased by nearly double. This means the frequency of MAID procedures per practitioner is also growing. Could this be part of the problem, rather than forcing MAID to be available everywhere? And for some final thoughts, I have tried to highlight the current state of crisis of scarce palliative care and hospice services available in Canada, and that access to palliative care and hospice is not considered a fundamental healthcare right to Canadians, so why is MAID? MAID requests are significantly higher than the number of MAID providers. Is there a lack of specialized providers that's contributing to your access issue? And why take coercive measures to implement MAID when other more profound and harmful inequalities remain unaddressed that affect a larger population of people who want to die naturally with support? If access is your concern, then let's think outside of the box. Where else can MAID be offered other than hospices to improve access? We can't further compromise the availability of palliative care and hospice settings to majority of the population that do not choose MAID at the end of life, or force providers to kill someone if that is how they so see it. And that is it for now. Thank you for participating in the discussion.